Rachel. This time, don't even think about taking a single cent of my bonus. Brian White, my husband, clenched his fists and swung them aimlessly in the air, shouting incoherently, just because I had signed and fingerprinted the divorce agreement. The house would go to me, the savings to him. Across the coffee table, he screamed at the top of his lungs, his face red with rage. I've had enough of your suffocating control. I can't take being under your thumb anymore. I gave a bitter, tragic smile. He actually had the nerve to call my attentive care suffocating control? I never begged him to fake love. Turns out he only ever stayed with me for the money. My silence only pushed him further into hysteria. Do you know how repressed, how sick I felt all these years being with you? He yelled. This time, in this life, I won't let the woman I love suffer even a little, not even a pinky's worth. Never again. I nearly laughed out loud. So, now he's suddenly noble and claiming to be in love? Brian casually packed a few clothes, zipped up his suitcase, and slammed the door behind him. I stood by the window, watching as he rushed across the street to the lottery store, dragging that suitcase so fast the wheels looked like they'd catch fire. When I asked the store owner, I found out Brian had placed 200 bets on a single set of lottery numbers. Of course, since he'd been reborn, he must have known the winning numbers. There was no way I'd let a cheating bastard like him end up richer than me. So, I doubled down, placed 400 bets on the same set of numbers. But somehow, the winning numbers weren't those. I waited in front of the TV all night for nothing. When his dream of getting rich vanished into smoke, Brian drowned himself in alcohol day after day. Very soon, Lauren, his mistress, drained every last cent from him and ran off. With nowhere left to go, my ex-husband came crawling back begging for forgiveness. After I rejected him, Lauren, his sister-in-law, and his mother locked me up. They matched my organs and divided up my body like scavengers. The White family sold me for over $3 million. As a ghost trapped near that family, I finally discovered the truth. The daughter I had raised wasn't even mine. She had been swapped at birth with Lauren's child. My real daughter, poor thing, was sold off to a remote mountain village by Brian's mother. My vengeful soul lingered, refusing to rest. I swore I'd make those heartless pay. Then I opened my eyes and found myself right before we finalized the divorce. Let's get a divorce, Brian, I said calmly. Brian White's expression froze, his face turning pale. He pushed the divorce agreement toward me. The trauma from my past life came rushing back, the desperation, the screaming with no one listening, the helplessness. It all still haunted me. Seeing my bloodshot eyes, Brian assumed I was just heartbroken. He tried to console me. Rachel, don't be like this. I'm trash. I'm not worth your tears. You'll find someone way better than me. That's when it hit me. I had been reborn. I casually flipped through the divorce agreement, then tossed it back at him. You leave with nothing, or the deal's off. Rachel, don't be unreasonable. You're the one being unreasonable, I snapped. You're the one who brought up divorce, so you walk away with nothing. I didn't back down an inch. You weren't like this before, he muttered. This isn't like you. Realizing he had slipped, Brian quickly faked a cough to cover it up. I shot him a look of pure contempt. Oh, then what kind of person was I? His face turned beet red. He raised his voice. We're married. All our assets are shared. Everything should be split 50-50. It's shared assets? I slammed my fist on the table so hard the cups rattled. Tell me, how much money have you actually brought into this family? I won 30 grand in the lottery. He spent over 500,000 on tickets and won 30,000. That's what you call earning? And what about the house? He argued. Please, that house was left to me by my mother. It's premarital property. Do you not know how that works? Brian finally dropped the act. I don't care. I want half. I demand it. I laughed coldly. Well, I don't care either. You're leaving with nothing. I'm not signing, I said firmly. Every cent you make from now on will be counted as marital property. Brian White immediately reacted like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Rachel, have a little kindness. Brian, try having some self-awareness, I shot back. Besides, it's not like I'm desperate for a divorce. If you don't want to leave, that's perfect. I'm not in a hurry. There'll always be someone more anxious than I am. You're about to be worth hundreds of millions, I added, and here you are still squabbling with me over crumbs. Aren't you embarrassed? Seeing how determined I was, Brian finally backed down. He clearly didn't want to risk splitting a fortune with me. Fine, he snapped. Even if I have to walk away with nothing, I'll divorce you. He stormed off, heading toward the print shop to get a new divorce agreement. I slowly called him back before he reached the door. Brian sneered. What now, Rachel? Regretting it already? Looking at that bitter, petty face of his, I wanted to slap myself. I must have been blind in my last life to fall for a man like this. I rolled my eyes. You didn't write down who gets custody of our daughter, I said, pointing to the agreement. Without hesitation, our daughter, Tiffany, chimed in. I'll stay with Mom. I don't want to be with you or Dad. Just like in the previous life, she chose me without the slightest doubt. It was becoming clear that this ungrateful little wolf had probably known about her true parentage all along, and stayed with me just to get close and fight for my assets. No way was I falling into the same trap twice. Both of them froze for a second. I guess, with that lottery windfall coming, my small-time assets weren't worth their attention anymore. Brian hurried downstairs and came back with a freshly printed divorce agreement. I looked him straight in the eye. All business. Transfer all the money from your bank accounts to me. Brian had clearly planned to sign the agreement first and then ghost on the money part. He froze for a full 10 seconds. But with riches so close he could almost taste them, he clenched his teeth and did as I said. Once I saw the $1.56 million transfer hit my account, I looked at him again. Now transfer your balances from WeChat and Alipay, too. Rachel, are you really taking every last cent? Brian was starting to crack. I looked at him like he was an idiot. Do you even know what leave with nothing means? It means not 1 cent comes with you. Another $2.41 million landed in my account. I didn't transfer a penny back. Just as Brian was suppressing his rage and about to demand I sign the agreement, I spoke again. Now I want to review your full financial records. That did it. Brian flipped the table. No way. Absolutely not. But the money was already in my account and I had nothing to fear. I calmly replied, no review, no signature. Eventually, he loosened his clenched fists. The cold, robotic beeping of the calculator echoed through our once cozy living room. You've moved a total of $1.66 million to unknown destinations. Write me an IOU, I said. Brian was at the edge of a breakdown. But with $100 million in sight, I knew he wouldn't risk it all by going ballistic. After Brian signed and fingerprinted the final divorce agreement, I wrote my name exactly where he wanted. Husband leaves with nothing. Custody of the daughter goes to him. From this moment on, all property is separately owned. Brian and I had met in college. I was one of the 3 campus beauties, and he was the heartthrob of our department. We had crossed paths many times on campus. He was young, handsome, and carried this proud, never-say-die spirit. He left a strong impression on me. Being something of a campus celebrity himself, I had heard of him. He seemed like a decent guy. So, when he lit up a giant heart with candles and confessed to me, I didn't hesitate long before saying yes. For 3 of our 4 college years, we were inseparable and deeply in love. Rachel, marriage is for life. You need to be careful, my mom had warned me when I excitedly told her I wanted to marry Brian. I don't think he's in it for the right reasons. I was thrilled to share the news, but instead of being happy, my mother frowned and gave me a serious reminder. Mom, what are you saying? I've already graduated college. I'm not a child anymore. I can tell right from wrong, I argued, a little angry. Partly because I didn't want our pure love to be polluted by material concerns, and partly because annoyingly, Brian's warning had come true. When I told him I wanted to confess everything to my mom, Brian looked worried. Rachel, my family situation. I probably didn't make the best impression on his mother, and since I was her only daughter, she was likely hoping I'd bring home a son-in-law, not marry off into another family. Brian came from a poor, rural background. His family had nothing. But I never once saw that as an obstacle to our love. I was confident. No way, I told him. My mom isn't the kind of person who looks down on the poor or favors the rich. She's not stuck in old ways. But reality hit me like a cold bucket of water. My mom never explicitly said Brian had to marry into our family, but she clearly looked down on his background. When I threatened to cut ties if she didn't support us, she reluctantly gave in. And just like that, I got what I wanted. I married Brian White. But I never imagined that the marriage I tiptoed around, the one I cared for so delicately, would only last 13 years. Thinking back, this life's Brian was no different from the last. Arrogantly, he revealed to me that he had been reborn, said he couldn't let his family suffer again, that he couldn't betray them. I brushed him off with a string of half-hearted yes and sures. His smug, self-important little speech didn't disgust me. It just bored me. A bit disappointed, Brian stopped his pathetic clown show. Maybe it was because he knew he was about to win $100 million. He tossed a few clothes into a suitcase like that was enough packing, then prepared to leave. This time, I personally walked him and Tiffany downstairs. Brian took out his phone and started calling. Hey, Mom, can you send me $1,000? No, I'm fine. It's just that my card's acting up. Pause. What do you mean? Why am I calling? We're already divorced. Pause again. It's nothing. I just don't want to be with her anymore. That's all. Can you send it or not? His voice got more agitated. I've sent you so much money over the years. Where the hell did it all go? Brian was clearly getting worked up. He must have sensed that I was in a good mood because he kept pushing. I listened in, amused. Then I heard him snap, 500. You have to send me 500 at least. From what I'd seen of Brian's transfer records, he had sent that old woman at least 400 grand over the years. And now, she couldn't even cough up $1,000. Must be some kind of human piggy bank. Takes in, never gives out. Eventually, it looked like she agreed to send the money on WeChat. A flicker of joy crossed Brian's face as he rushed into the lottery shop like a man on fire. Dad, I'm coming with you. Tiffany shouted. You're a girl. What are you tagging along for? Stay right here. He barked the command, forcing Tiffany to stay behind. She stomped her feet and muttered something I couldn't hear clearly. No matter what numbers you pick in this life, I'll match them. Soon after, Brian strutted out of the shop. Every move of his screamed arrogance. He wasn't hiding anymore. His ego wouldn't let him. His posture was straighter than ever as he glanced down at the second-hand Armani suit I'd bought him, clearly thinking it wasn't worthy of his new billionaire status. My parents weren't insanely wealthy, just upper middle class. They'd never let me splurge on luxury clothes. Their philosophy was that clothes should be comfortable, appropriate, and never wasteful. But Brian, his vanity was off the charts. He lived in constant fear that someone might see through his facade and realize he used to be broke. He'd always drop hints, hoping I'd buy him luxury suits. I couldn't for the life of me understand why a couple scraps of stitched-together fabric should cost tens of thousands. So, I spent $5,000 at a second-hand shop for a gently used Armani suit that still looked great. He scoffed at the second-hand label with his mouth, but his hands were another story. He grabbed the suit eagerly, threw it on, and wore it like he wanted to sleep in it. Later, I learned it was that very suit, worn at a class reunion, that caught Lauren's eye. That's when she decided to seduce him. Well. A sarcastic, sing-song voice interrupted my thoughts. If it isn't our old-school sweetheart, Rachel, the campus queen. I turned to see Lauren's overly powdered face, her smug little smile stretched tight over wrinkled skin, and her ever-so-lifted nose gleaming with highlighter like she was some kind of winner. Still the same charm, huh, Rachel? She said with a fake pout. Can't even keep your man from running off? Lauren reminded me of one of those dumb palace drama villains, petty, jealous, and painfully unaware. I didn't even bother answering her. Instead, I said to no one in particular, I saw a guy today wearing sneakers with the toes cut out. Lauren blinked, caught off guard. What? Why would anyone do that? I smirked. He said it was because he collects scrap metal. She stood there stunned like some awkward sidekick waiting for a punchline she didn't get. He just loves trash other people have thrown away, and his favorite thing is used goods. Even someone as dense as Lauren eventually realized what I meant. You're calling me used goods? I'm not insulting you, I said. I'm insulting both of you. Before Lauren could spit out another insult, I patted her on the shoulder and nodded toward the entrance of the lottery shop. Speak of the devil, your used good is here. Rachel, we're divorced, Brian snapped. I'm warning you, stop meddling in my life and with my people. He saw the pissed-off look on Lauren's face and probably thought I had bullied her. My tone turned cold and sharp. Brian, remember what you just said. From now on, whoever speaks to the other first is lower than scum. Fine, he shouted. We'll see who breaks first. With that, Brian swore his oath like a man declaring war. I watched as his pink BMW roared off into the distance. Then I turned back toward the lottery shop entrance. If Brian really was reborn, surely he wouldn't pick the same number set again, right? Morning, Uncle Lee, I greeted as I stepped inside the store. Here's the umbrella I borrowed last time. Uncle Lee was sweeping the floor. When he saw me, he waved dismissively. It was just an umbrella. You could have kept it. Why bring it back? Oh, and this, I said, handing him a box. Some tea a friend gave me. I don't drink much, so I figured I'd bring it for you. You didn't have to, he said with a laugh. I haven't even finished the last batch you gave me. It's fresh from this year, I told him. Please try it. Finally, he accepted it and smiled. Then, as if something had just come to mind, he leaned in and whispered, "What's up with Brian this time? He usually does a quick pick 50 sets, spreads the bets around. But today, he fixated on just one number set. 200 tickets on the same combo." Noticing my curiosity, he continued explaining. That means he's banking everything on one single outcome. That's risky business. Lottery's supposed to be for fun, not something to gamble your life on. What numbers did he pick? I asked, pretending to sound casual, though I was anything but. Because this time was so unusual, Uncle Lee remembered it clearly. The moment he told me the numbers, I froze. He'd done it again. Brian had once more bet on the same number set from our previous life. So much for being a reborn genius. Where was all that rebirth wisdom and blessed by fate aura he bragged about? Now I was genuinely curious. What lifetime did Brian actually get reborn from? Without hesitation, I transferred $800 and said, "Uncle Lee, I'll take the same number set, 400 tickets." He stared at me, startled. I just scolded Brian for being reckless, and now you're going in even harder than he is? Money doesn't grow on trees, you know. It's fine, I said. Even if I lose, it's just a one-time thing. You two are betting 600 tickets total. That can drain the whole prize pool, he said, clearly upset. Like the lottery would ever let folks like you hit the jackpot. Uncle Lee truly didn't want me wasting money. I swear, Uncle Lee, just this once, I promised. He sighed, but reluctantly printed the tickets. After all, I couldn't let the same ending repeat from last time. No matter which numbers Brian picked, I was going to match him. 400 tickets every time. I wasn't playing to win. I was here to disrupt, and according to Uncle Lee, jackpots like this never fall into the hands of regular nobodies. But if Brian was repeating his exact steps from the last life, then maybe I should cover the actual winning numbers from before, too. I quietly transferred another $4 and said, 2 tickets for the set that won last time. That was the set I'd waited for in front of the TV, the one that had actually won. Who knows? Maybe a butterfly flapping its wings would shift fate a little. Or maybe not. It was just $4, no big deal. Might as well play along. Since the amount was small, Uncle Lee didn't argue this time. Finally, the draw time arrived. I'd already prepared my popcorn and sat in front of the TV, ready and waiting. As each number ball rolled out, my heartbeat pounded louder and faster. The balls rolled faster and faster, thump. The final number dropped. And the moment I saw the winning numbers clearly, I flung the bowl of popcorn across the entire living room. I had actually won. After sweeping up the popcorn mess, I calmed myself down. Unlike Brian White, my first instinct after winning wasn't to boast. It was to keep quiet and get rich in silence. I wasn't planning to tell a soul. But the tree may want peace, and the wind won't stop blowing. Within minutes, Uncle Lee was calling. His hoarse, raspy voice blasted through the phone. "Rachel, don't say anything, just listen. You won. 20 million. Haha, I've worked this store for decades and never seen a jackpot land here. I'm so proud of you." After hanging up, I realized staying low-key might no longer be an option. Reality simply wouldn't allow it. Still, I told Uncle Lee he could promote the fact that the jackpot was hit at his store, but not to say it was me. And especially, don't let Brian White know. We were divorced now. The next day, a huge red banner hung across the lottery shop. "Congratulations to our valued customers. 2 first prize winners in our store. Total winnings, 20 million. The news sent the whole town into a frenzy. Uncle Lee's business skyrocketed overnight. Everyone wanted a piece of the lucky vibes. Crowds lined up outside the shop pushing and shoving. A few people even started fighting when someone tried to cut the line. It got so chaotic that the local police had to step in to keep order. My phone rang again. It was Brian White, the scumbag himself. "What do you want, scumbag?" I answered. "Rachel, who the hell are you calling a scumbag?" You," I said. "We just agreed yesterday. Whoever contacts the other first is scum." "What, forgot already? Pretty ironic coming from you, Mr. Integrity." The line went silent for 2 seconds. Then Brian tore off his last shred of pride and tossed it straight into the trash. "Rachel, we didn't divide the marital assets fairly. That's not okay." "Sorry," I said flatly. "We both signed the divorce agreement in black and white with bright red thumbprints. You don't get to change that just because it's inconvenient now." He wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. "Come on," he begged. "As long as you agree, we can change the agreement." "Are you seriously brain damaged, Brian?" I snapped. "Why on earth would I revise the deal when I made you leave with nothing?" His voice started to tremble like he was clutching at straws. "Didn't you say you didn't want a divorce? Then let's not divorce. Please, Rachel. I'm sorry. Give me another chance." I was honestly speechless. But inside I felt a cold chill creep in. His desperation, it reminded me way too much of what he was like in our past life. "Don't make me look down on you, Brian," I said. "It's too late. I've already filed a lawsuit with my attorney to finalize the divorce." Brian exploded. "Rachel, don't you dare spit on my kindness." Before he could spew more garbage, I hung up. When he called again, I blocked his number. Ding. A WeChat message popped up. It was from Brian. "Rachel, don't forget our daughter is still with me." Brian White, are you even a man? Using your own daughter to threaten me? "Rachel, we didn't split our assets properly. I'm owed half. You need to send me money. 4 million. Not a cent less." "Too bad. We signed a legal divorce agreement. And to prevent me from laying claim to any lottery winnings, Brian had even specified the exact time down to the second. Anything earned after 9:43 a.m. yesterday belonged solely to each person. We both signed. We both fingerprinted. Credit where it's due. That part he pulled off smartly. And yet he had the nerve to use our daughter to blackmail me." I smirked. What an idiot. What kind of man uses his own child to threaten someone? "Brian, she's your daughter, too. How could you stoop so low?" "I don't care. I want the money. Brian, I won't let you hurt our daughter." After I sent that last message, Brian didn't reply again. But I knew there was no way he'd back off quietly. I immediately called my friend Jenna and told her to sell off everything in the house that could be sold. Within 2 hours, the place was stripped bare. Then I boarded the high-speed train to the provincial capital. I didn't want to risk anything dragging out. I had to cash in my winnings before anything went wrong. Meanwhile, I got a message from my daughter. "Mom, Dad didn't win the lottery. He smashed everything in the house. Then he hit me. The attached photo showed Tiffany's face swollen on one side, a bloody lip, and clear finger-shaped bruises on her cheek. It was real. No makeup. No tricks. Brian and his little monster were playing the full drama, likely afraid I wouldn't believe them. So they made sure the pain was real. A performance like that, sacrificing the child for sympathy, watching it unfold actually made me feel good. Cold, maybe, but satisfying. Brian, how could you do this? Tiffany sobbed. Mom, you and Dad shouldn't divorce. Do it for me. Please. No. I said. Infidelity and domestic abuse, I have to divorce him. But can you give Dad half of the prize money? If not, he's just going to keep hitting me. He's not just hitting you. I said. He's killing me. It breaks my heart. So, are you agreeing to give Dad half? She asked. No way. I replied. He's not getting a cent. I'm calling the police. Tiffany fell silent. What she didn't know was that I had hidden surveillance cameras installed in every corner of the house, even one outside the front door. That afternoon, a motion alert popped up on my phone. I opened the live feed and saw Brian and Tiffany dragging suitcases back into the building. So, Lauren's escape plan must have started early in this life. Brian tried to enter, but the passcode no longer worked. He started knocking. Rachel, open the door. I know you're in there. When I didn't respond, knocking turned to banging, then full-on kicking. When they brought out tools to break the lock, the police arrived. Apparently, one of the neighbors had heard all the noise and thought a gang fight had broken out in the complex. So they called it in. This is my house. Brian said quickly when the officer stopped him. The officer looked him over. Then why don't you know your own door code? Brian stammered. I had a fight with my wife. She changed it on me. The officer frowned. Can you prove that you live here? I've been living here the whole time. The officer rolled his eyes. That's not proof. They checked with the building management and confirmed I was the listed owner. Then the officer called me. Hello, is this Ms. Rachel Lane? I'm Officer Who from the precinct. Yes, this is Rachel. I replied. Mr. Brian White says he's your husband. He's currently locked out and is attempting to break into the residence. I'd like to confirm, do you consent to this? Absolutely not. I said. Officer, I'm currently in the process of filing for divorce. This house is my premarital property. He has no right to enter or destroy anything. I had my phone on speaker, so Brian heard everything I said. He instantly lost it. Rachel, I already apologized. Why are you still clinging to this one little thing? Oh, one little thing? I said dryly. If cheating and keeping a mistress is a small thing, then what counts as a big one? Cut the crap. I snapped. This is my house. You're not allowed inside. Mom, can you not make this harder than it already is? Tiffany chimed in. Dad already admitted he was wrong. Shut up, Tiffany. I said coldly. The moment you chose to side with your dad, you stopped being my daughter. Thank you for taking this seriously, officer. I said. And with that, I hung up. When the officer turned back to Brian, there was clear disdain in his expression. Without Ms. Lane's consent, you are not allowed to damage her property or force entry. Brian dropped to the ground with a thud. How is this fair? He shouted. I can't even get into my own house now? Brian muttered in disbelief. After the police left, Brian picked up the power drill again and went to work on the door lock. The police couldn't stand guard here all day just to stop him from breaking in, and I knew better than to expect a door lock to hold off someone as shameless as Brian. Even if I called the cops again, it wouldn't make much difference. After all, technically, Brian and I weren't fully divorced yet. To law enforcement, this was just a domestic dispute. They wouldn't actually arrest him. Sure enough, the lock gave out quickly. But the moment Brian and Tiffany stepped into the house, they both froze. Dad, were we robbed? Tiffany asked. The only response was Brian's dumbfounded face. The place was completely stripped bare. All that was left were the floor tiles. Even the toilet in the bathroom had been removed. Tiffany, desperate to go, ended up squatting over the hole in the floor where the toilet used to be. When she was done, she called out, Dad, can you bring me some toilet paper? Brian searched every corner of the house, but couldn't find a single scrap. Scowling, he muttered, just rinse off with water. That's when it got even worse. There was no running water. The utility had already been shut off. Dad, go buy a pack of toilet paper, Tiffany said. Brian glared at her. Buy a pack? I only have $8 left. Then buy a small pack, she muttered. Not long after, Brian came back with a single pack of toilet paper, 2 sausage sticks, and 2 plain buns. I could tell that was the best he could do with just 8 yuan. They sat on the floor and ate dinner like beggars. Dad, where do you think Mom went? Tiffany mumbled through a bite of bun and sausage. Brian's face darkened. She said she was going back to her hometown. But he didn't finish that sentence because a possibility flashed through his mind, one he refused to believe. His jaw clenched so tight his cheek muscles visibly twitched. Listening to them talk, I'd assumed she meant me when she said Mom. Turns out she was talking about Lauren. Dad, we don't have any money left. After this meal, there won't be another. Brian narrowed his eyes. It's fine. I don't believe Rachel is really that heartless. Beg her nicely, she wouldn't just watch her own daughter suffer. Tiffany scoffed. I've called her Mom all these years. That better not be for nothing. She started fiddling with her phone. Before long, I received a message from her. Mom, Dad hit me again. How could he do this? What kind of father hits his own daughter? Where are you? Can I come find you? No, sweetheart. Mom's traveling right now. Then can you send me some money? You know Dad doesn't have a penny left. Oh, Tiffany, why didn't you say something earlier? All my money's tied up in locked investment plans. After paying for my tour package, I only have a few hundred left. Then sell the investments. I wish I could, honey, but they're fixed term. I can't cash out for another 6 months. On the surveillance feed, I saw Brian holding Tiffany's phone as he read my reply. He nearly smashed it in rage. Since he couldn't get anything out of me, Brian turned his attention to his mother. But I had already taken precautions. I'd hired a private security company to assign 2 bodyguards, a man and a woman, to protect me 24/7. They followed me closely all the way to the provincial lottery center. I wore sunglasses, a mask, and a hat, the full winner's disguise kit. From ticket verification to tax procedures to the final bank transfer, the entire process took 2 hours. When the bank confirmation of 16 million yuan hit my phone, I finally exhaled in relief. It wasn't full financial freedom, not yet, but it was a solid start. In my last life, the stock market had soared like crazy, all the way up until October 8th. As someone who'd been burned before, I knew the pain of getting suckered into opening a brokerage account a decade ago. I'd made more losses than gains and spent most of my time stuck in bad trades, just waiting for a miracle to break even. But this time, I was going to do things differently. I wasn't about to miss the next wave. I already had around 5 million yuan in savings. With the 16 million from the lottery, I now had 21 million total, and I put every last cent of it into the stock market. With leveraged margin added in, I ended up holding stocks totaling 56 million yuan. Everything was ready. All I needed was a tailwind. The 2 bodyguards escorted me safely back to the city before leaving. I gave them 2,000 yuan, enough for their travel expenses and a little extra as a thank you. I chose to stay at a hotel right next to the police station, just in case. Once I settled in, I pulled up the surveillance feed from home. The house now had 3 mattresses, a few blankets, and some pillows crammed inside. But what made my hair stand on end was the sudden appearance of an old woman on the screen. My whole body involuntarily shivered. In my last life, after I died, my soul lingered long enough to hear dark truths that no one else knew. That old woman was Brian's mother, my mother-in-law, and she had been involved in dozens of child and human trafficking cases. She was a complete monster. It was under her and Brian's sister's manipulation that Brian had imprisoned me and sold off every organ from my body that could turn a profit. But their crimes had only been confessed through words. There was never any solid evidence. After such a long day, my eyelids grew heavy, and I soon fell asleep. Knock, knock, Knock. Someone was pounding on the door. Who is it? I called out. Room service, said a deep, hoarse voice from behind the door. I dropped to the ground instantly, frozen in fear. That voice, I knew it too well. It was Brian's sister. This wasn't room service. This was a death sentence. The first thing I did was slide the security chain into place and dial the police. When I didn't open the door, the people outside started losing patience. The pounding grew louder and more violent. No need to clean this room today, I shouted, trying my best to steady my voice, though the tremble gave away my panic. Rachel, you bitch, Brian's furious voice roared from the hallway. Open the damn door. Yeah, open up. Brian's sister and mother shouted as they hammered on the door, their fists landing like sledgehammers on my chest with every thud. The sheer terror paralyzed me. It was like I was back on that cold hospital bed in my past life, completely helpless. That suffocating dread was trying to swallow me whole. Tiffany suddenly grabbed the universal key card from a cleaning staff member and handed it to Brian. Dad, use this. The lock clicked open, but the security chain held, letting the door open only a crack. Brian's twisted, contorted face pushed through the gap. When he saw me collapsed on the floor, a greedy gleam shot through his eyes. You slut, he growled. You dare open the door behind my back for some other man? Just wait and see what I do to you. Oh my God, his mother wailed. What sin did our family commit to end up with a daughter-in-law so shameless? She smacked her thigh and shouted, Brian must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes to end up marrying someone like you. Brian's sister spat, spewing filth like a rabid dog. You've completely ruined our family name. Even Tiffany joined in. Mom, how could you do this? How could you betray Dad and me? This family was trying to justify their illegal behavior under the pretense of catching me cheating. They wanted to smash down my door and make themselves look like the righteous ones. Then suddenly, a deep, authoritative voice rang out from the hallway. The White family's shouting and banging stopped cold. 2 uniformed officers approached quickly, a middle-aged man around 35 and a younger one at his side. The older officer looked sternly at the group. What's going on here? When his eyes landed on Brian, there was a flicker of recognition, then a look of contempt. Brian's mother flinched when she saw the police, but quickly switched to tears. Officers, you have to help us. My daughter-in-law, she's cheating on my son with some strange man at this hotel. You're lying. That's not true, I said, stepping forward to explain. Shut up, you bitch, she screamed. If you've got nothing to hide, open the door and let us in. Yeah, Brian's sister snapped. If you're so innocent, then prove it. Open the door. There was no way I was letting them in. Why should I open the door for you people? I've already filed for divorce. You're not going to trap me again with this pathetic act. Brian's eyes bulged with rage as he yelled, as long as we're not divorced yet, you're still my wife, Rachel Lane. The older officer looked frustrated. Who's Rachel Lane? The younger officer turned to the group, his questioning gaze sweeping over us. I am, I said quickly. Officer, Brian White and I have already signed a divorce agreement. I'm in the process of filing for full legal separation. They have no right to interfere with my personal freedom. Maybe I was imagining it, but the older officer looked oddly familiar. The younger one glanced between the agitated White family and me, and for a brief moment, I caught a flicker of hostility in his eyes. Ms. Lane, this clearly seems like a family matter, he said. Don't you think you're wasting police resources? I frowned and was just about to push back when the older officer cut in. That's out of line, he said firmly. If Ms. Lane feels her personal safety is being threatened, she has every right to call the police. And if she's already signed a divorce agreement with this man, then why are his family members still harassing her? The younger officer looked sullen and annoyed at being contradicted. Still, he said, Ms. Lane, may I see your divorce agreement? Of course. Just a moment, I replied, walking to the living room to retrieve it. I handed the document to the younger officer, but as soon as I let go, he fumbled it. His hands were slipperier than a soccer goalie's in a thunderstorm. The agreement slipped through his fingers and hit the floor. Brian reacted instantly, lunging forward to grab it. His mother, his sister, and Tiffany weren't far behind. They all reached for the document at once. In the chaos, the paper was quickly torn to shreds. And as if that weren't enough, they started eating the pieces. Seriously. As if to ensure the document couldn't possibly be reconstructed, they shoved the paper scraps into their mouths and chewed like wild animals. The young officer not only had slippery hands, but he also moved slower than my 70-year-old aunt. My mother-in-law was faster than him. All he did was shout, "What are you doing? Stop that," but made no move to stop them. The older officer, by contrast, acted fast. He lunged to retrieve what he could, managing to salvage only a tiny scrap. When, he snapped, "Get it together." But the four whites ignored him completely. Their mouths moved faster than their brains. In no time, the entire document was swallowed. I turned to the younger cop coldly. "Officer, are you seriously going to pretend this isn't suspicious?" "That agreement clearly said Brian White walks away with nothing. How do you plan to compensate me for this?" The young officer avoided my eyes. "I didn't mean to drop it. You kind of let go before it was fully in my hands." "Wenzi Han," the older officer growled, "I'll be reporting your performance today exactly as it happened." "My evaluation? Poor. You're not even officially a full officer, and you're already disgracing the uniform." He had experience. He knew something was off. Before the young officer could reply, Brian's sister suddenly jumped in to protest. "You'd think someone had insulted her ancestors." She was shaking with outrage. "If you didn't know better, you'd think she was Wynn's mom or something." "Officer, this was our own fault," she blurted. "It had nothing to do with that young man." Even Brian's mother suddenly changed her tone. "It was all just a misunderstanding, officer. We admit we were wrong to disturb Rachel. We're leaving now." Brian's sister exchanged looks with the rest of the family. All of them seemed satisfied. Their goal had been reached: destroy the evidence so they could go after my assets. "Hey, I need to use the bathroom," Wynn muttered, then quickly followed the White family down the stairs. The older officer waited until they were out of sight, then turned to me. "Ms. Lane," he said gently, holding out what was left of the divorce agreement. "I'm sorry I wasn't able to protect this." But the moment his eyes landed on the text on the scrap he recovered, his expression shifted. His lips twitched like he was struggling not to react. He looked back at me, a new flicker of admiration in his gaze. On that torn piece of paper, in bold text, was my scribbled note: "After being reborn, I opened the door for a human trafficker." What a joke. Anyone could see the young officer had been siding with the White family. He had no right to look at the divorce agreement in my hands. There's no way I would casually let someone read what I wrote during my downtime at home. Just short stories I was drafting. I randomly grabbed one of my working drafts and handed it over. Who would have thought they'd devour it like that? Watching the satisfaction on their faces, thinking they had pulled off some big scheme. It was honestly hilarious. If they liked it so much, I had plenty more where that came from. I reached up and turned off the body camera recording. The older officer looked at me and said, "Ms. Lane, my name is Ning Yuan. The officer who came with me is Wenzi Han. If you're dissatisfied with how we handled things, you can file a complaint by calling this number." "Got it. Thank you," I said. "What's your name again?" "I'm Ning Yuan, ma'am." "Did you go to high school at First Central?" He paused for a long moment. His eyes reddened. "Yes, Ms. Lane. Thank you and your mother for saving my life back then. I owe you everything." "It really is you," I whispered. My throat suddenly tightened, blocking any further words. Tears rolled silently down my face. After Ning Yuan left, I immediately called the provincial security company that night. I'd learned my lesson. I couldn't give the White family another chance to hurt me. The night passed without incident. By morning, I checked with the company and learned that my newly assigned bodyguards were already stationed outside my door. I opened it quickly and found 4 of them, 2 men and 2 women. All were professional, sharp, and well-trained. Looking closely, I realized that 2 of them were the same ones who had escorted me back the day before. I switched to a 3-bed suite. The 2 female guards stayed with me, and the 2 male guards took the room next door. We all headed to the People's Hospital to conduct 3 DNA paternity tests. One between me and Tiffany, one between Brian White and Tiffany, and one between Brian and me. The results surprised me. Tiffany was biologically Brian's daughter, so I set aside that report for now. But I packaged the other 2 DNA reports, me with Tiffany and me with Brian, and mailed them to my family's home address, marked clearly as to Rachel Lane. The next morning, Brian received the envelope. He didn't care whether it was meant for me. He tore it open without hesitation. When he saw that Tiffany and I weren't biologically related, a smug grin appeared on his face. But then he saw the second report, the one showing that Tiffany wasn't biologically related to him either. And that smile froze. His face twisted into pure rage. His mother trembled with fury, too, her aged face twitching uncontrollably. But compared to Brian, she stayed relatively calm. Brian started rushing toward Tiffany's school, wanting to confront her, but his mother pulled him back. Right now, the most important thing is to sue Rachel, she told him. Get the money first. Later, when I reviewed surveillance footage, I found out that after receiving the court summons, the White family immediately contacted Brian's sister's son, Wenzihan, and tracked down the hotel where I was staying. They used the excuse of catching an affair to storm my hotel room and destroy my divorce agreement so they could then calmly attend court and take half of my assets. Originally, they thought I wouldn't open the door that easily. They didn't expect me to be so naive and hand the divorce agreement straight to Wenzihan. It couldn't have gone smoother for them. The perfect act, perfectly executed. I sent a message to Brian via WeChat. Brian White, I can't believe you could be this shameless. So this whole stunt was just about destroying my divorce agreement, wasn't it? He replied, Rachel, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I snorted. Even without the divorce agreement, I'll still divorce you. Brian answered, Rachel, I know you're upset, but just calm down. Did you sign for the DNA report from the testing center? I'm warning you, tampering with evidence is illegal. I fired back. You're a lunatic, Brian. I don't even know what you're babbling about. Just wait. In the surveillance footage, I saw the smug smile on Brian's face when he thought his plan had succeeded. But a moment later, his face darkened, like he'd suddenly realized something. Maybe it finally hit him that Tiffany wasn't actually his biological daughter, either. Soon, it was the day of the trial. When I walked into the courtroom with my attorney by my side, Brian White was already seated steadily at the defendant's table. The rest of the White family sat right behind him in the gallery. You whore, his mother snapped. Starting today, the White family has no daughter-in-law like you. Her words were as sharp and vicious as ever, her face twisted with malice. It was as if hurling insults at me in court would somehow win them the case. How could our Brian have married such a woman like you? She sneered. Why don't you just go die? His sister, with her rat-like face and sharp tongue, puffed herself up with self-righteous fury. Before she could spit another insult, the judge banged the gavel. Order in the court. During the evidence presentation phase, I produced the divorce agreement along with a video recorded on my phone at the time we signed it. The entire White family was stunned. Brian's eyes widened in disbelief. That's impossible. We tore up my copy. That one must be fake. That divorce agreement has to be fake. His mother and sister started shouting, their voices shrill and hysterical. The judge slammed the gavel again. Order. Defendant, if you continue disrupting the proceedings, I will hold you in contempt of court. I had irrefutable evidence on my side. Brian, on the other hand, had nothing. During the debate phase, my lawyer used the documents and recordings I provided to dismantle their case completely. Their attorney didn't stand a chance. When the judge offered mediation, I firmly refused. The mediation was declared unsuccessful, and the final ruling was handed down. The divorce was granted, Brian would leave with nothing, and custody of our daughter would be awarded to him. The moment the judgment was read aloud, the White family burst into loud wails and cries right there in the courtroom. The judge, clearly fed up, ordered them out. Whore, don't run. Stupid girl, where do you think you're going with our money? I had just stepped down 2 steps outside the courthouse when they came after me, trying to physically attack me. But before any of them got within 5 feet, my bodyguards had already taken them down with swift precision. Of course, I wasn't going to let this golden opportunity pass. I wound up my arm and slapped both Brian and his sister across the face, over and over, until I'd landed more than 10 slaps each. Look at you. Disrespecting the judge's ruling and throwing a tantrum at the courthouse doors? You've got some nerve. Already at a disadvantage, just kicked out of the courtroom, and now facing my towering professional bodyguards, they finally realized they had no shot today. Defeated, they slinked away, tails between their legs. I left with my guards, walking tall. The National Day holiday passed in a flash. On October 8th, I sold off all my stock during the pre-market auction. My 90 million yuan portfolio cleared my 36 million margin loan, leaving me with 54 million in hand. Looking at my 4 tall, muscular bodyguards, each costing 30,000 a month, totaling 120,000 a month, or 1.44 million a year, I sighed. With food, clothing, and housing expenses not even counted yet, I realized true financial freedom was still a long way off. Meanwhile, back at my house, Brian sat slumped in defeat. "Mom," he asked, "what now?" "Rachel has bodyguards. Selling her off is nearly impossible." His mother narrowed her eyes. "Don't forget, we still have that little bastard. That Lauren dared to cheat on me," Brian growled. "When I find her, I'll make her pay." "Ugh, stop talking nonsense," his sister snapped. "Let's focus. Are you really okay giving up this little mutt?" Brian clenched his jaw. "Why wouldn't I be? She's not mine, anyway. I might as well collect some interest." The very next day, Tiffany was pulled out of school and brought home. They began testing her immediately for compatibility. Everything I endured in my past life, she was now going through. I still remember that moment so clearly, when I drank the warm milk Tiffany handed me, praising her for being so thoughtful, only to pass out minutes later. When I woke up, I was already strapped to a cold operating table. I overheard them talking, how I had generated 3.8 million yuan for their family, and Tiffany, excited, called me useful. She even proudly wrote in her journal, "Some people are like fish. You can fry them 3 ways." That woman consumed it all on her own. I wondered if she felt useful doing that. Did she praise herself as being useful? That very night, Tiffany was taken to a shady clinic run by Brian's brother-in-law. 4 went in and 3 came out. Brian White came home the next day. In the following days, she couldn't eat anything without vomiting. Once she recovered enough strength, I sent Brian a message. "Brian, the DNA testing center just called. They made a mistake and matched our DNA wrong. Don't worry, they retested. Tiffany is your daughter." Brian stumbled out of the house speaking gibberish, and when he reappeared, he was holding a butcher's cleaver. I had hired a private investigator who managed to capture every piece of evidence against Wen Zihan and Brian's sister. Apparently, one had known about his parents' trafficking ring and had warned them multiple times. I bundled all the damning evidence and sent it to Officer Ning Yuan. The next morning, I woke up to 2 trending news alerts. City Daily: authorities bust illegal organ transplant ring. The perpetrators were deranged and donors never survived. The operation was run by a local couple with their son using his position to cover their tracks. Breakthrough in missing girl case. Miniature girl's disappearance finally solved after 6 years. Justice prevails. Suddenly, the bitter clarity of avenging my past life wiped away any sense of triumph. Instead, I felt lost. I told Officer Ning Yuan I wanted to find my real daughter. He agreed. Officer Ning Yuan's background side story. My name is Ning Yuan. In 6th grade, my parents died in a car accident. My grandmother, as legal guardian, took all the settlement money and favored my uncle's family. Without parents, my sister and I lived on steamed buns and leafy greens, poor and weak from lack of nutrition. In 8th grade, my sister developed acute leukemia. Treatment would cost 300,000 yuan. Grandma refused to pay. I begged outside the hospital, but they wouldn't treat her. Just when I'd lost all hope, a kind woman and her teenage daughter came to me like angels. They promised help. I recited my thanks over and over, but they told me, just take care of your sister. My sister received a life-saving bone marrow transplant, and we survived. They refused repayment, saying the money was for us. My grandmother and uncle demanded I give it to them, but I refused. They even tried to harm my sister. I had to threaten them with a knife in the kitchen to protect her. That marked the end of their threats. Years later, I learned that the teenager who helped us was named Rachel. Passive donation saved my sister's life, and I never forgot it. When I thanked Rachel, I told her I was applying to First Central, her alma mater. I returned from the memory of Ning Yuan hearing my story. Yes, I am that Rachel. I am that kind aunt. I took care of Jingjing for a full year before returning to school, just in time to be in the same year as Rachel's younger sister. I studied day and night, determined to catch up. Eventually, I got into First Central High, just like her. I never told Auntie or Rachel's sister. I only watched over her silently from the sidelines, protecting her in secret. One time, Rachel's sister was coming home for break. Auntie couldn't pick her up that day, so she made her way back on her own. She was so beautiful, so eye-catching, that some thuggish guys with tattoos noticed her and started following her into an alley. Just as they were about to make a move, I stepped in and stopped them. Rachel's sister didn't notice a thing and continued walking home safely. But I got jumped by all of them. I was bruised all over the time. A passing officer finally stepped in to stop them. Despite the pain, I was happy. Finally, I had a chance to repay Auntie and Rachel's sister for even just a sliver of their kindness. Rachel's sister was too smart. I had to work twice as hard just to keep up with her, just to get close. In the end, I managed to get into the same college as her. I continued watching over her from the shadows, when she was named Campus Beauty Queen, when she started dating Brian White, and when she eventually walked into marriage. When Rachel's sister found someone who loved her, when she finally had a happy family, I quietly walked away. I thought, maybe she didn't need me anymore. The second year after we graduated, Auntie passed away. Late-stage cancer. Rachel's sister was devastated. She cried like her world had ended. I did, too. I sobbed until I couldn't breathe. She didn't recognize me then, thought I was just a distant family member. The next time I saw her again was 11 years later. She had been cornered by Brian's family in a hotel room. My rage nearly made me lose control. No, I had to stay calm. I had to use my position to protect her however I could. Wen Zihan definitely had ties to the White family. No one would so obviously take their side otherwise. When I saw the face behind the door, I froze. She didn't recognize me, and that made sense. She had only seen me when I was 14. Since then, I'd always stayed hidden in the background, never once bothering her. All my anger, my heartbreak, my frustration twisted together until my head spun. That's why, when Wen Zihan crossed the line with his conduct, I didn't stop him in time. The White family was utterly shameless, ripping up the divorce agreement like that. I wanted to destroy every last one of them. But when I saw the calm, cold fury in Rachel's eyes, I knew she was ready for them. What had she gone through to become this strong? After the Whites finally left, I patrolled the hotel all night. When Rachel sent me the packaged video evidence, I wanted to make those people pay with their lives. But I couldn't. That evidence was enough to make sure they rotted in prison for the rest of their days. I should have known long ago there's no one who will protect Rachel as completely as I will. For the rest of my life, I will continue to be her shield. Guess who? My younger sister, Ning Jing, cupped her hands over my eyes from behind. This girl, even after becoming a judge, she's still so playful, not at all like how serious she is on the bench. Brian White side story. My name is Brian White. I was reborn. In my past life, I won the lottery by betting on 50 numbers. One of them hit the jackpot, 10 million yuan. I kept quiet and proposed divorce to my wife, Rachel. We signed a divorce agreement. The savings went to me, the house went to her, and our daughter chose to live with her mother. That was all part of my plan. Eventually, the daughter would inherit Rachel's house and assets anyway, so it was a win-win. I'd win twice. I proudly told Rachel I'd won the lottery fair and square, and that the 10 million had absolutely nothing to do with her. But she didn't agree. She said it did have something to do with her, and that she deserved half. How was that even possible? That money was mine. I never imagined that shameless woman, Rachel, would dare to sue me. She claimed that when I bought the lottery ticket, we were still legally married, so the winnings counted as marital assets. Unbelievable. I worked so hard, hit the jackpot, and now I had to split the post-tax 8 million yuan. She was demanding 4 million. Whatever. Even if she took 4 million, I still had enough left to live comfortably with Lauren. Time flew by, and within half a year, Lauren gave birth to a healthy baby boy. I loved him more each day. Thinking about how much suffering she had endured over the past 13 years, I slapped myself hard across the face. I really was a piece of trash. Lauren cried and said I didn't love her. I swear to God I was being wronged. She told me that if I truly loved her, I'd let her manage the money. Without hesitation, I transferred everything I had left into her account. That night, she didn't come home. I tried calling her, no answer. I called her mother's place, still nothing. Eventually, I called the police. Days passed with no news, then more days. Finally, her mother called me in tears and told me that Lauren and the baby had been kidnapped. My poor love gave all the money to the kidnappers, but they still killed her. I never even saw their bodies, just 2 urns, one big and one small. God, how could you be so cruel to me? I was broke. After spending the last few hundred yuan in my bank account, I panicked. The lease on Lauren's apartment was about to expire. I had no money, no home. Was I really going to have to crawl back to Rachel? That vile woman actually said, "A good horse doesn't return to the same stable." She refused to forgive me. One more day before the lease expired, and yet in this whole wide world, there was nowhere left for Brian White. Thank God there were still a few bottles of vodka at home. I downed them one after another, drowning in my misery. Eventually, I passed out. When I woke up again, starving, I realized I'd been reborn. In this life, I swore Lauren would never suffer again. With memories from my past life, I knew I could become a billionaire. Rachel wanted to kick me out with nothing? Why was her reaction so different this time? Fine. Even if she made me leave with nothing, I only needed 400 yuan in startup funds to become a billionaire. This time, I had to divorce her quickly. She wanted me to transfer the bank balance to her? Sure, I'd do it. And when I made it big, she'd regret it so badly she'd choke on it. But something was wrong. Why was our daughter acting differently? It didn't match what I had arranged. Damn it. Why didn't my lottery numbers win this time? It wasn't fair. There had to be some kind of conspiracy. Could it be like Uncle Lou said, there's a rebirth prevention mechanism in this world? When Lauren heard I'd been kicked out with nothing, her expression turned sour. And when she found out I didn't win the lottery, she vanished again. I tried calling her mother. She fed me the same story from the last life. It finally dawned on me. Lauren hadn't been killed last time. She'd taken the money and run. And this time, seeing I had no wealth left to offer, she didn't even wait. She just left. Looking back now, Rachel actually wasn't so bad. At least when I lived with her, I didn't have to lift a finger. Meals were ready, clothes were clean. With Lauren, I was the one doing everything. Thinking about it now, Lauren's looks were nothing compared to Rachel. They weren't even in the same league. God, what the hell was wrong with me back then? How did I ever fall for a woman like Lauren? No, I had to win Rachel back. She was my true love. But just like last time, she refused to take me back. She wouldn't drink the wine offered in peace. Fine, then she could drink the wine of punishment. We had already torn up the divorce agreement and eaten it. Let's see how she divorces me now. This money is mine. Damn it. I never expected that Rachel would have the gall to sue me. Brian seethed. She said I bought the ticket while we were still married, so she claims half of it. Even 4 million for my post-tax 8 million. Whatever. She can take her 4 million. I still have enough to spoil Lauren. Time flew. 6 months later, Lauren gave birth to a healthy baby boy, and I fell deeper in love with her. Thinking of all she had suffered in the past 13 years, I slapped myself hard. I'm trash, I thought. Lauren cried, accusing me of not loving her. I swore I was being wronged. She demanded control of the money, so I transferred everything I had left to her account. That night, she never came home. My calls went unanswered. I contacted her mother. I thought I'd need to involve the police. Days passed, more days. Finally, Lauren's mom called me in tears. Lauren and the baby have been kidnapped. My poor love handed all the money over to the kidnappers, but they still killed her. I never saw their bodies, just 2 urns, one big, one small. God, why are you so cruel? I was destitute. After spending the last few hundred yuan, I panicked. Lauren's apartment lease was expiring. I had no money, no home. Was I really going to beg Rachel to take me back? She actually said, "A good horse never returns to the trough." She refused to forgive me. With 1 day left on the lease and nowhere left to go, I turned to drink. 1 glass of vodka after another until I passed out. When I awoke, starving and stunned, I realized I had been reborn. This time, I vowed Lauren would never suffer again. With memories from the last life, I knew I could become a billionaire. Rachel kicks me out with nothing? Her reaction was different this time. Fine. Even if I walk away with nothing, I only need 400 yuan as seed money to become a billionaire. I had to divorce her, and fast. She wanted me to transfer the bank balance to her? Done. When I make my fortune, she'll regret this. But something was wrong. Lauren was acting out of pattern. It didn't match what I'd planned. Damn it. Why didn't my ticket win? This isn't fair. There's got to be foul play. Could it be like Uncle Lou said, there's a rebirth mechanism blocking winners? When Lauren heard I was leaving with nothing, she looked pissed. And when she learned I hadn't won the lottery, she vanished again. I called her mother. Same story as last life. It finally hit me. Lauren wasn't killed last time. She ran away with the money. And in this life, she didn't hesitate. Looking back, Rachel was nice. At least with her, I didn't have to work. Food came to me, clothes were laid out. With Lauren, I had to do everything. Lauren's looks, light years below Rachel's beauty. God, what the hell was wrong with me to fall for Lauren? No, I had to chase Rachel. She was my true love. But as before, she refused me. She wouldn't take me back. Not peacefully. Fine, then punishment it is. We tore apart and ate the divorce agreement. Let's see how she divorces me now. Next scene continues. Not divorcing? Today is my moment of greatest love in life, Brian raged. The daughter I raised for 13 years isn't even mine? That Lauren. Don't let me find you. I'll kill you. And that bastard Tiffany. He doesn't even deserve the white name. Don't think you're going to get away. But first, I'll sue Rachel for half of her assets. How can she still produce a divorce agreement? He growled. That sneaky woman. He glared at a shattered photo. Only one road left now. Tiffany had said it was Rachel's mom's fault tricking him again. That evening, he got a message from Rachel. What has God made me do? He whispered. I gave my own biological daughter to that monster. Had her organs taken. None of that was my fault. It was my mother and sister. They're the ones who killed my daughter. What a joke. Now they ask if 1.2 million is enough? My baby is dead and they're dividing money? We don't deserve to live. In my final moments, I thought of Rachel. Did I send her to hell last life, too? Hollow, shattered. He realized his past lives. First life, he betrayed her. Second life, he killed her. Third life, he tried again and failed. She never wronged him. Then Brian felt his soul shift. Why was it in this family's home? He saw a girl studying, her face eerily familiar to Rachel's. Scenes of Rachel and that girl crying in each other's arms flashed.